whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Hello. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. And boy, do we have a show. We're going to start off just kind of touching on the Nikki Haley CNN town hall. I have a couple of clips I want your guys' comments on. And then I just finished it. I had to. It was like a train wreck I could not turn away from. Have you guys seen this? Please tell me you've seen this. Shiny Happy People. Duggar Family Secrets. It's on Amazon Prime. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is frightening. So we're going to get into that. I mean, I was like taking notes and anyways, we're going to get into that. And if you don't think that this fundamentalist way of living and believing and running your family and running your community isn't spreading, you're wrong. And that's what's so freaking scary right now. Also coming up on the show, California's Attorney General Rob Bonta is accusing Florida of flying migrants to Sacramento. And now Governor Newsom is saying Ron DeSantis is guilty. He's accusing him of kidnapping these freaking people, which sucks because we're talking about human lives here. We have to touch on the Dave Ramsey thing as well. Kind of a theme. They're like conservatives using religion to defraud people or lie about politics. It's amazing how that can happen. But Dave Ramsey, I'm torn on. And I've mentioned this on Station X. I listened to Dave Ramsey a lot. I will, and hands down, I will credit listening to Dave Ramsey to getting my family out of debt several years ago, many, many years ago. I did the whole debt snowball. And besides our monthly bills like mortgage and rent and things like that, I don't have a car payment. I have no debt. We have no debt. I mean, I have bills. It's expensive to live in the Bay Area. I have high monthly bills because of rent and what have you. But as far as debt, credit card debt, things like that, I don't have that anymore. So I do credit Dave Ramsey for kind of just, and I know that way of thinking and the philosophy isn't anything new, but I credit him for that. But there was always this caveat when I listened to Dave Ramsey that I had in the back of my mind, which people should have. And so now Dave Ramsey is being sued for defrauding his listeners. What else do we have coming up? The writers' strike continues, although there may be a deal. There was a march across the Golden Gate Bridge to bring attention to gun violence. And on that note, last week, there was a state bill introduced that would help prevent workplace gun violence. But there's something in the bill that other people are like, no, I do not agree. I did not sign up for this. I'm not doing that as well. We'll have a couple of other lighter stories. Bobert, I'm sure you've heard. There was a DNA test proving that this ex-wrestler is not the father. And then Al Pacino is the father, but he made his girlfriend take a paternity test. So I'll let you guys weigh in on whether or not, this does not bode well for any relationship. Just starting off. Phineas, the Natalie Holloway update. He's being extradited, right? I saw the headline and I did not put it in. Is it Vandersloot? I'm pulling this all off the top of my head. I'm not a huge Natalie Holloway, it's not embedded in me. I'm usually up on all my kind of drama like that. But the guy is being extradited to the United States, or at least that's the last I heard of it. At the break, I'll bring up some topics and we can weigh in on that. Eric already weighing in early. I knew the Duggars were screwed up when I first heard about him. Always thought the Duggar Sr. was trying to get into politics by spawning his voter base. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. So yeah, but yeah, okay. We're gonna get into that. That's probably going to take up a lot of the show but I'll wait till Kim McAllister joins the show in a few minutes. Before we do any of that, you guys, can you please click that thumbs up button right below the screen? Please do that every single show, even if you're watching on replay. The super chat is also live. We really appreciate the financial support that people give us either every month or every day. And the daily way you could do it is through the super chat. Super stickers, super thanks, super comments that we will read during the show. So please look for the $ under the live chat box. And then, of course, the number one way to support the show, if you want to keep turning on YouTube and seeing the Nikki Medoro Show, is by going to thenikkimedoroshow.com. That's the show's website. And become a monthly Patreon subscriber. Become a Medorable, please. 100% crowdfunded show. That's the way we make our bread and butter on this show, is through donations like yours. And we really do appreciate it. If you could bump it up, that'd be awesome. If you could become a first-time monthly subscriber, that would be awesome. Plus, all the links to PayPal is there. And of course, our merchandise shop is there as well. All right. Okay, so let's start off with let me lower this a little. Let's start off with the Nikki Haley town hall. Who watched it? I didn't watch it. Again, I always feel like these things are a load of BS anyway. I definitely didn't watch Trump. Nikki Haley I didn't watch because honestly, I was busy with a bunch of crap around my house, so I just didn't have time. But let's show you a couple of clips. Let me first start off with this one. Now, this is where Jake Tapper, who I think is under the weather, his voice was a little raspy. He was asking Haley about red flag laws, and here was that exchange. Here we go.
Which enables law enforcement and the courts to temporarily either remove guns or block people from being able to purchase guns, individuals who have been adjudicated in some way from posing a threat to themselves or others. Is that something that you might support?
No, I don't trust government to deal with red flag laws. I don't trust that they won't take them away from people who rightfully deserve to have them, because you've got someone else judging whether someone should have a gun or not. It is a constitutional right that people can protect and defend themselves. What I want is the feds to do their job. What I want us is to take illegal guns off the street. What I want us to do is deal with mental health the way it deserves to be dealt with. And what I want is for us to have the backs of law enforcement so that they can do their jobs. That's when we'll start to get safety back on our streets again.
All right. What do you think about that right there? I always find it a bit rich that people in government always say they don't trust government. Does that ever... Anybody else think that is just the epitome of hypocrisy? You're in government. You're literally telling me not to trust you. Right? I don't trust government. You are in government and you want to be like the top of government, but we're not supposed to trust you. Now, as far as red flag laws, this is a common refrain from 2A people, right? They don't want to upset gun owners or the NRA. They go, we don't trust government, which is problematic in and of itself, to, not take away the guns from people that are legally allowed to have them. Now, okay, I get it. But when is it happening? Where is this happening? Where there is this mass movement that's actually happened, where the government is just knocking on people's doors and taking away their guns and never giving them back. It's not. It's a narrative that they want you to worry about. Be worried about something that hasn't happened yet because it could happen. Really? Because you know what actually is happening? That is literally happening? Kids are getting shot at school. People are getting shot at work. That's actually happening. But let's create a narrative of something that isn't happening and scare people about that. What's actually scary is what's actually happening, right? And so it's so frustrating to listen to some of these people talk. And red flag laws are there so that the people that are closest to gun owners can let others know, judges, courts. Again, there's a whole process. It's not like I pick up the phone and the gun's immediately taken away. But that's what they want you to believe is going to happen. That some and it's always this. Some disgruntled girlfriend or wife is upset at a guy. And so she's going to go and take away the gun. It's always this because one, it's a false, story. It's just a made up story. And two, it has to include women, right? It always has to. Some spiteful woman is going to take away her manly man's gun. Need a friggin' break over here. But that's a story we'll often hear, right? But no, red flag warnings are to empower the public who know who the gun owners are. Like, gosh, I know so-and-so has a gun and that person's been kind of weird lately. I heard him or her making terrible statements. I'm just going to say him because often it's him, but it's not always him. Him making terrible statements. So maybe we should look into whether he's in his right mind and own a gun. Or we don't. Or protecting a constitutional right that I think has been just completely misinterpreted at the benefit of the NRA, but whatever. To protect that constitutional right at the sacrifice of children and innocent people. It's insane that this party of pro-life, which is really pro-birth, but whatever, this pro-life party won't do everything in their power to protect life. Actually do it. They would much rather protect a piece of paper that I think, again, has been misinterpreted wildly. What else did Nikki Haley say? Oh, this one's rich. This one's out. I mean, again, I didn't watch the whole entire thing, so we're just kind of getting these little clips here and there. This is Nikki Haley weighing in on the women's issue of our time.
Want to start with biological boys playing in girls' sports. That's one thing. The fact that we have gender pronoun classes in the military now. I mean, all of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much. It's too much. I mean, the idea that we have biological boys playing in girls' sports, it is the women's issue of our time.
Not Roe versus Wade. Not Roe v. Wade. Not forced birth. But this, according to Nikki Haley, is the women's issue of our time.
My daughter ran track in high school. I don't even know how I would have that conversation with her. How are we supposed to get our girls used to the fact that biological boys are in their locker rooms? And then we wonder why a third of our teenage girls seriously contemplated suicide last year? We should be growing strong girls, confident girls. Then you go and you talk about building. You want to start with.
So yeah. It's the transgender girls. It's girls in sports. It's the women's issue of our time. She is so tone deaf. She is so tone deaf. Because even if you consider transgender girls in sports a major issue, it is, in my opinion, laughably far from the top women's issue of the day. Roe v. Wade, the loss of body autonomy for women in this country is the number one threat, not just to losing our body, but the economic impact, the life impact of no longer having control over our own body is insane. And the fact that Nikki Haley doesn't think it's the top issue blows me away. And honestly, I mean, there's many reasons why I wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley, but that statement alone, the fact that she's completely blind to how terrible that statement is to women and men, right? I'm speechless on how idiotic that sounds. Absolutely. But again, let's also go back to something she said about red flag laws. She does not trust government to regulate guns, but a woman's body. Please, government, step in. You, government, know what is best for a woman. You, government, should be in that doctor's office right there with your hand on the shoulder, telling a woman what she could do with her own body. That is okay for government to be involved in. But guns, it's a constitutional right. Please. Give me a break. I mean, am I wrong here? Do you not see the hypocrisy that is Nikki Haley? And then I got one. Okay, so this whole, race relations, transgender, we're in the middle of Pride Month, all these sorts of things. This is what Nikki Haley says. Now, I want you to listen. Now, again, it's just a clip. But you tell me how you feel about this, because I'm not torn, but it's a weird thing to say, in my opinion. Here we go.
And I remember when I would get teased on the playground I would come home and my mom would say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And it's amazing how our country should take my mom's advice right now.
Your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. I mean, it sounds cultish. It really does. What if I'm not similar to them? What if our upbringing, our socioeconomic status, everything about us is different? Why should that not be celebrated? Why is it not deemed a strength to come into a situation with a different perspective? Why? Ron says Haley's not going to win. Neither is Tim Scott. Both are angling for cabinet positions. 0 chance they'll win the Republican Party. 0. You're right. I mean, it's a freaking long shot, right? Let's not call the race, because I always feel like it's stupid to do something like that. But you're right. I mean, it's a long shot. Let's just say that. But here's the thing. We need to pay attention to people like Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, because other than that, we're going to be stuck with DeSantis and Trump. And I want, I don't agree with her at all, but I want to hear different views. I want people to be held to account. Like, how do you feel about this? Now, again, I know that Nikki Haley seems to think that transgender girls in sports is the top women's issue of our time, but she was asked a question regarding Roe v. Wade. And again, as someone who wants to become president of the United States, she really hemmed and hawed about having a position on it. So here's what she said.
I think we have to say, where are they all going to come together? What can we get 60 votes on and then go forward?
So do you have an opinion though? I mean, if a 6-week ban theoretically came to your desk, would you sign it?
Why? I will answer that when you ask Kamala and Biden if they would agree to 37 weeks, 38 weeks, 39 weeks. Then I'll answer your question. No one asked them that. No one asked them how late they're willing to go. What I'm saying is, why go and put the American people through that? Why do that? Why not talk about what's the truth? And the truth is, where can we get 60 votes? I just gave you the consensus about where I think we can come together.
I think Biden and Harris have been pretty clear that they don't support any restrictions. I mean, that's their.
They've said abortion up until the time of birth, right?
I don't think that's the language they use, but yes, I mean, theoretically they don't support restrictions. They say it should be up to a woman, her doctor, and her God.
Look how she just feels like that's a good point. Yeah, they believe that there should be no government in deciding whether or not a woman should be pregnant.
That's what they say.
And I think that's the conversation we need to have, is that they agree with abortions up until the time of birth. And most Americans do not agree with that.
So Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, he tried to steer a path for the Supreme Court of about a 15-week ban, which is originally what Mississippi was proposing. And then Mississippi realized they could get Roe v. Wade overturned, and they moved forward even more aggressively. Is that where you think a national consensus would be? I understand you're saying it's up to where you can get 60 votes, but in your view, you must have an opinion. Is 15 weeks where it would be theoretically?
I haven't talked to the senators. I don't know where 60 votes are. What I will tell you is I want to save as many babies as we can and support as many mothers as we can. I'm not going to throw out a number, because if you don't talk with those senators and know where their head's at and know what they're really willing to do, then we're having a false conversation and having a debate that's only dividing people, and it's not bringing people together.
Shut the hell up. She doesn't have the balls to say what she wants. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to be president of the United States. What do you believe? Randy says, but let's be real. You can't just I love you, Randy. I do. I love your appreciation, but your language in this statement is just going to make my blood boil. You can't just let a woman choose to have an abortion at 35 weeks. No other considerations. Randy, walk me through what you think is happening if a woman needs to terminate a pregnancy at 35 weeks in reality. Because I think it was Pete Buttigieg who laid it out so clearly that at 35 weeks, you have a name, you have a nursery. Do you know the tragedy it is to end a pregnancy at 35 weeks? That is why it is laughable when, I'm sorry, Randy, people like you try to make this an argument. Up until 40 weeks, Like a woman at 35 weeks looks down at this belly where she feels this movement inside of it and says, you know what? I changed my mind. It's a false story. It's bullshit. And I'm just going to say it. And it's what divides us. That divides us. That divides us. Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show.
Oh,
Hello,
God.
my friend. Hello, my friend.
I'm able to hoot and holler when I listen to you, and I'm not. Yes, everything
my
you just
God.
said, he said, and I remember being so moved by it because, and Randy, God bless you, but I feel like you haven't had the experience of being pregnant, and so you don't know that moment. You don't know that fluttering feeling of a child inside you, of a baby inside you. You don't know those moments. And like, as Nikki said, when you get far along in your pregnancy, 7 months, 8 months, you've picked out a name. You've had a baby shower. Usually
Mm-hmm.
you're excited. Everybody knows you're pregnant. You've shared it with the world. You're Facebooking about it. You're in that nesting mode where you're collecting baby clothes and folding them and making sure you've washed
You're
them with
not
a special
changing your
detergent.
mind.
You're not
Yes.
changing your mind. When a late term abortion happens, or yes, when it happens, it's because something is horribly wrong with the child, with
Mhm.
the fetus, with the baby, or something's horribly wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're
And I will
you
even say
yeah,
this, I bet, and I'm not going to say
yeah,
100%, but I would say most women, if they reach 35 weeks and the doctor's like, your life could be put at risk, but the baby is 100% healthy, they'll risk it.
absolutely risk it.
They'll risk it. They're like, oh, wait, just, it's
Yeah.
probably the husband or the partner that's like, I don't
Right.
know. But like, you don't do this willy-nilly. And
No.
that's the thing that divides us. And that is why when Nikki Haley made that smug ass face and she was like, yeah, they believe in no restrictions on abortion. Yes, government does not belong in the conversation. And if you want government involved in the conversation, we were fine with Roe v. Wade as it was, right? There were limitations on it. And most of America supported it, even though I fully agree that the government should stay the hell out of it. Republicans and extreme conservatives messed it up. Most of America does not want the government in that discussion, and it shouldn't be. But anyway, so that's Nikki Haley.
And
I
you know
just,
what
I don't get her. She's not going
I
nowhere.
want a leader to say, I want a leader to take a position.
Yeah.
I don't want a leader to go, well, it depends on what everyone else
Where
has
you can
to
get the
say.
votes, but that's what they call her. They call her really wishy-washy. Like, just wait, she'll change her position depending on which way the wind is blowing. And that's what you don't want. Like, if you're going to say something, if you're going to say you are pro-life, which is really pro-birth, but if you're going to say you're pro-life, how much? Put your money down. Go ahead. Stand by something. Because you know what? Biden does. Harris does. She thinks that it doesn't work for them, but it does. Because just like she doesn't trust the government, her own words, to handle red flag laws, she shouldn't trust the government to handle a decision as important as becoming and staying pregnant. It drives me nuts. Yeah, John, when abortions happen that late, it's just about always the need for the health of the mother or the fetus has some defect that will make it not viable. Exactly. But they don't mention that. They don't mention that at all. You would think they would find somebody that did that. Oh, yeah, I just decided, and I'm just going to pretend that I'm from the South. I changed my mind. I changed my mind and I decided, this big belly isn't working for me. That's bull. Like, nobody's doing that.
Doctors aren't going to do it either, not with a viable pregnancy. They're
No.
not going to do that. They're going to say, listen, you're almost at the end. If you don't want the baby, abortion is for you. But I think it would be a huge challenge to find a woman who just happened to decide at, 37 weeks or whatever, that she changed her mind and didn't want the baby and wanted to terminate. I think you would never find that.
Yeah.
Nope.
And Randy, I appreciate you. Yeah. He's like, I didn't communicate it well. My error. Okay. I hope I'm communicating myself and my position well. I've maintained this the entire time. And I just, I feel like there is a role for government. I don't think that pregnancy, starting a family, doing any of those things is we don't need government for that. We need government to protect living, breathing people, citizens, people with social security cards, people who pay taxes, right? I mean, that's the role of government. This is overreach and it holds women down. It does. It's not, I'm not trying to say, mothers can't be as successful. There is a physical consequence to being pregnant, to giving birth, and to having a child. There just is. Yeah, and Wes, you were so right. I am pissed. Jake Tapper sucked at this. And I think that he was under the weather. I don't think that he should have. There are so many moments, especially when she made that comment about, all the way up until birth. He should have been like, well, don't you understand when that would happen? Call her on the carpet. It's like nobody's called on the carpet for this.
Yeah.
Or call back, like I said. So you don't want the government regulating guns, but you do want the government regulating women's bodies?
Yeah.
Explain that to me so it makes sense, Haley.
I think that no one has articulated it as well as you, Nikki, and also Pete Buttigieg, who
yes, Pete
I'll
Buttigieg
never
was
forget
awesome.
when he said he was asked the question and he had this emotional response and said, there's already a crib.
Mm-hmm.
There's already clothes in the drawer.
There's a name.
These are not people who don't want this baby. This baby is wanted and and already loved. This is a trauma and a traumatic event. That's what that is.
Yep. And it's just, again, it's this philosophy that I think is really infiltrating more of politics. To, I think, the country's detriment. I don't feel like we need to be moving down this path, but we are more and more. Now we are going to talk, Kim. I don't know if you watched the Duggar documentary. Have you watched Shiny Happy People on Prime?
I haven't watched that documentary because I understand they're creepy people. And
it's beyond that.
Is it?
It is it's frightening. It's on one hand, it's frightening. And on the other hand, not surprising at all. Right. I think that when you talk about especially fundamentalists, which are kind of the really extreme conservative religions, it doesn't, when you suppress things like sexuality and things like that, then sometimes you see child molesting happening, right? You see all these crimes being swept under the rug. We will discuss this later on in the show. But if you guys have seen Shiny Happy People, I want your guys' take on it. I actually had to finish watching it this morning because I couldn't stop. It is like a slow motion train wreck.
Really?
And it's so bad, and it's
Is it more than just the brother? Because the brother was the one that was like,
it's more than just the Duggars. It's this organization, IBPL, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, and this guy Bill Gothard, and it is frightening. And then there's this, I think it's called the Joshua generation. I could be wrong. I'm going to Google it when you do your headlines. But it's this young group of people. And I'm just going to say this because I don't want to just bring race into it, because then they'll find the token black person. White kids, white teenagers, white young adults using social media to promote this like fundamentalist Christian belief system, making it look cool. And I'll just say this, having young women in their 20s being asked, what do you believe in? What is the role of the wife? And a woman in her 20s in 2023 being all, it's to be submissive to the husband. And if you do not think that this is going to spread and catch on, watch this documentary. Mike Huckabee, Sarah Palin, so many politicians. They're in our military. They're in our schools. You want to talk about indoctrination? They're in our prison systems. I mean, this is happening, people. And now, I'm not saying you can't believe in God, but you should keep your God and your politics separate. And that is not the goal. That is not the goal of this organization specifically. They want a rising up of a Christian nation. So when you hear a politician stand up during a debate and bring up God or Christian values, understand that is the goal. And you can believe in God, you can have Christian values. That is your right. But you should keep it out of your politics because not everybody is. All right, we're going to do some headlines. Again, we're going to get into the shiny, happy people. I want to get into Florida again, shipping migrants, this time to Sacramento. Gavin Newsom's accusing Ron DeSantis of kidnapping these people. Do you think that he's kidnapping these people? But I mean, if you look at the definition of kidnapping, you know, it's kind of similar. So we'll talk about all that. Please click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And here's Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, let us begin this newscast on the Nikki Medoro Show with federal investigators who are looking for answers now after the crash of a private jet that caused a scare in the nation's capital on Sunday. The small aircraft went down in Virginia after F-16s were scrambled because the plane was flying erratically. The pilot didn't respond, ended up crashing near the George Washington National Forest, and all 4 people on board were killed. Former Vice President Mike Pence is running for president in 2024. Yes, indeed. Here it comes. Pence filed the paperwork to run for president officially, and he filed the paperwork today. And so here it comes. I was going to try to get a picture of Mr. Pence up there. I kind of like this one. I don't know. What do you think? Here he is.
Unless there's a fly on his head, I don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it? No?
Unless there's a fly on it, like then I'll just laugh and laugh and laugh. There you go.
Pence joins a growing field of candidates vying for the Republican nomination. He's spent the last several months making frequent trips to early primary states like South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa as well. The top U.S. general says Ukraine is very well prepared for launching a counter-offensive against Russia. That is that's the word. It's you hope that it doesn't happen and that the war ends soon. But the top U.S. general is saying Ukraine is very prepared. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley saying on CNN he is confident Ukraine's military is ready to attempt to retake occupied territory very soon. He's joined by other top officials, including White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in projecting their confidence. Wouldn't that be something if Ukraine was able to retake their territory? And I wonder what the response from Putin would be, whether he'd feel emasculated, whether this would be some type of more provocative thing if he feels like now all that land is his. There's a picture of what's the damage in Ukraine. A Manhattan attorney is now pleading not guilty to multiple sexual assault charges in Massachusetts. 35-year-old Matthew Nilo, arrested in New Jersey last week in connection to the sexual assault of 4 women in the Boston area more than a decade ago. His legal team claims the FBI may have obtained DNA evidence without getting a search warrant. I don't know if you saw this beautiful picture of the strawberry moon. I don't have one, Nikki. I don't know if you can throw one up, but it is lighting up the sky over the weekend, the last full moon of spring. The name comes from Native American tribes marking the ripening of the June-bearing strawberries that are ready to be gathered, according to the Old Farmer's Almanac. NASA says the moon will appear full for 3 days, started Saturday night. The space agency says it will shine the brightest at 11:42 p.m. Eastern Time. There it is, the strawberry moon. So beautiful. And here's a story for you. Barbie. Yeah. The movie is causing a pink emergency. In recent interviews, director Greta Gerwig explained in an effort to create the world of Barbie Land set, designers needed so much pink paint, they caused an international shortage
of pink.
Not enough pink paint to be had. So Warner Brothers completely bought out the signature Barbie pink color from the major paint distributor Roscoe. A spokesperson for the paint company said, "We gave them everything we could, but Warner Brothers completely cleaned us out." Fans can immerse themselves in the colorful world of Barbie July 21st. And if you wanted to paint your walls Barbie pink, sorry, Not going to happen for you. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kim. All right, so let's talk a little bit. We're going to get to the Duggars. Don't worry. If any of you have watched Shiny Happy People, it's on Amazon Prime. It's 4 episodes. And you think, it starts with the Duggars, right? But it's really about this kind of fundamentalist way of raising your children, running your household, very male-dominated, women submissive. But if you think it's just the Duggars, it's not. And there is this concerted effort to infiltrate all aspects, not just of the United States government, politics, military, police, but to spread it and to let it go to every corner of the globe. Okay. And the reason why I want to hold on to that, because there's definite political decisions and statements that are made with this, under this umbrella of it all, right? I mean, just very fundamentalist, conservative. I'm not going to go as far as saying just white, because I think that when you just talk about a certain race or ethnicity, then it really makes people ignore that there's people that don't look like that doing the exact same thing. Okay. But I do think that people just have this idea of, manifest destiny if you look a certain way, right? You can move from one part of the world to another part of the world, except right here. It's all of this kind of compartmentalizing migration, why people move, the reasons why people move. I understand that if you live on a border town like Texas, like Arizona, your opinions about migration and migrants and illegal immigration and all those sorts of things differ. Well, California's Attorney General Rob Bonta says the state of Florida appeared to have arranged for a group of South American migrants to be dropped off outside a Sacramento church. There's about 16 migrants. They arrived on Friday from Colombia and Venezuela. They're in their teens and 20s. Gavin Newsom is pissed. In a tweet, he said, "Ron DeSantis, you small, pathetic man. This isn't Martha's Vineyard. Kidnapping charges, ? And then he included a kind of a portion of the law. This is every person who, being forced out of this state, abducts or takes by force or fraud any person contrary to the law of the place where that act is committed, and brings, sends, or conveys that person within the limits of the state, and is afterwards found within the limits thereof, is guilty of kidnapping." So Gavin Newsom is accusing Ron DeSantis of kidnapping. Now, apparently these migrants did not know that they were being taken to Sacramento. They were given false promises that they were going to be getting certain jobs and travel assistance. Florida, the public safety department, Ron DeSantis are not commenting.
How mean.
It's mean. It's cruel. It's also not treating people like human beings, but like cattle. We need to solve this issue, but Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott, all those people, they're just using this for political purposes, right? They don't want to help these people.
Yeah.
They're pro-life, except unless you're not, white or American, then they don't give a crap. And yeah, it's just, they point to California as if we're overly woke. They talk out of both sides of their mouths, right? They act like they're so religious, but the words they speak and the way they vote is anything but.
Are not religious. Yeah.
I heard something from AOC, and I don't know how long ago it was. She's like, if Jesus Christ himself walked in and said the things he said thousands of years ago that they can find in their Bible, he'd be called a radical. He would be called woke, right? To take care of each other, take care of the stranger, feed the poor, all these sorts of things. No. Jesus Christ himself would be considered too woke for the Republican Party. Ron DeSantis, though, was asked to define woke. This is what he said. Hear this sound yet? Oh, yeah. So this is, I hate that term too, Gordon. I hate the term woke. This is how Ron DeSantis defines woke.
The former president said he doesn't like to use the word woke. Communism. He said he doesn't like to use woke because people don't know what it means. That's obviously been a big part of your messaging. What do you say to that?
Look, we know what woke is. It's a form of cultural Marxism. It's about putting merit and achievement behind identity politics, and it's basically a war on the truth. And as that has infected institutions, it has corrupted a lot of institutions. So you've got to be willing to fight the woke. We've done it in Florida, and we proudly consider ourselves the state where woke goes to die.
I mean, he practiced that line, where woke goes to die. That's not the definition of woke.
But people believe that.
Oh yeah, I know, because they're great at co-opting things and manipulating it. That's not what woke means. Woke is being aware of the system in which you live, people, right? You know, how it's an unfair system for so many marginalized groups, to being awake to that. I'd be pissed. I mean, I just don't, I can't stand the guy. I hope he gets his comeuppance. You know, I really do. I hope he does not become the next president of the United States. But you know that woke and this whole fight against woke has gone a bit far when Chick-fil-A is now being boycotted. So the far-right groups are boycotting Chick-fil-A. And why do you think it is? Because apparently Chick-fil-A, who has been very public with their donations to anti-LGBTQ groups, has hired a Black person to lead their diversity portion of their company. And because you cannot be diverse, you cannot be inclusive, you cannot use those words in certain conservative groups, they are boycotting homophobic Chick-fil-A. I mean, how the hell do you do that? Like, it just blows my mind. Exactly, Murphy. Chick-fil-A is so religious. Here's a question for you, Kim. And because you're a mom and you have kids.
Yeah.
Do you think it's wrong to explain to, and I'm going to say tweens, I'm not going to go too young, all right? Let's say 11, 12 and up, okay? 12 and up. Why maybe you shouldn't shop at Hobby Lobby or eat Chick-fil-A? At what point do those conversations, should they begin?
So I try to explain my thoughts without indoctrinating, right? So I'll say something like, here's why we don't go to Chick-fil-A.
And what do you say? What is the reason why you don't go to Chick-fil-A?
I say we support your aunties, because we have gay aunties. We support your aunties and their family. We support people being who they are and not having to hide. And we support, people being able to choose to love who they want to love. And so when I know a company is giving money to the opposite of that, then I won't go and give them my money, because I don't want my money to go there. Now, that's what I feel. And I say some other people feel differently.
Right.
Some other people feel like they don't like gay people, or they only want a man and a woman to be married, because that used to be the way it only was allowed. But that's not the way I feel. So you get to make up your own choice on that.
So
we had this happen, by the way, because Julia went somewhere where a group of girls decided that Chick-fil-A was where they wanted to stop. We've never been there, because we don't give those people our money.
Right.
And we've never had to discuss it before, because we just don't go there.
Right.
And so I called her and I said, where are you? And she said,
I'm
at
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. And I said, oh my. And I think I was on speakerphone, because the mom then in the background, I could hear her. And she then texted a group mom chat, like, it was the girl's choice. Like, I didn't do it.
Yeah. That's
problem.
funny.
I'm not going to put my values on you, but I just thought that was interesting.
A good way of doing it, right? It's like, because I think there's probably more than these, but I bet there's three camps. There's those that support Chick-fil-A because they love their homophobic belief system.
Right.
There's those that don't support Chick-fil-A because of their homophobic belief system. And then there's this large third that I think they just like the chicken. Right? They're just like, screw
they don't
it.
care.
I don't care. I like the nuggets. I like the sauce. Yeah. And so that's the group that my best friend's son found himself in. Unfortunately for him, I'm his mom's best friend. And so he's like, I want to go. And the reason I bring this up, because I feel like I might have done the wrong thing. So I'm just going to preface this by saying it.
Okay.
And maybe I did.
Bring it on. What do you got?
This was a couple weeks ago, actually. And so he's like, oh, can we stop at Chick-fil-A? And I was like, you don't eat that homophobic chicken, do you? And he's like, what? And now he's 12. So it's not like I'm talking about a little kid.
Right.
Now I'm going to also preface this by saying, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't say that it's not much of a stretch to think that he's getting the other opposing view. from somewhere, not my best friend's house, but somewhere, right?
Sure, yeah,
Close.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to kind of counter that. And I was like, oh. And so he's like, what does that mean? Homophobic chicken. I mean, I think he knows what homophobic means, but he didn't understand why I was calling it homophobic chicken. And I was like, oh, I'm like, they donate to anti-LGBTQ groups. They don't like gay people. And I've known this kid, like, so I'm talking to him bluntly because I know this kid really well. I'm like, they don't like gay people. And they use their money that you would give them for. And so I don't personally eat that chicken. And so he looks at his mom and she just looks at me and I look at him like, you could still eat it. I was like, he's like, I
Do
just
what you got to do.
I was like, that's fine. But I'm just letting you know. And this is why I brought it up. At what age, and then I'm going to hear people, you're indoctrinating your kid. Well, in a way, parents always indoctrinate their children, right? I mean, you're teaching your children a set of values that you have. And so I'm trying to teach this child, who I'm very close with, and my own children, that one of the major ways, especially in our country, that you express a viewpoint is with the almighty dollar.
That's right.
While you might like the chicken, isn't that good? Is it really? Can you not live without it? Can you eat less of it? Like all of these steps down to kind of aligning your economic viewpoint with your moral and societal viewpoint. And so I don't know. I kind of felt bad. Now it's become a joke.
I don't think you should. I think it's
well,
great
just because
to
he's
be
not my kid. I mean, he's like
Mm-mm.
my kid, but he's not. And my best friend had no problem with it. And it's become kind of a joke now. She's like, oh, I think I'm not gonna say his name. She's like, I think that he wants homophobic chicken again. And I'm like, whatever, feed your child that homophobic chicken. And I'm not and I hate on it, but
the difference is, I think when I was growing up, my parents were pretty conservative at least my dad is, and there was never any other alternate viewpoint explained to me, right?
Yeah.
No one ever said, I feel like this. Some other people feel like that. How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts on it? It was always just kind of absorbing what they thought until I was old enough to realize, oh, there's a whole other world out there of opinions and facts and things and learning. And I don't have to, be a carbon copy of what my parents think.
Absolutely.
But I think if you approach it where, you say some people don't like that because they're, they want the traditional. Well, if you explain both sides, I don't think it's indoctrinating.
Yeah.
You can say, they're obviously your kids are going to probably look at you and go, well, if you're like that, I'm going to be like that.
Or they're not. Or they're going to be like,
not.
You're like that. I'm not being like that.
Right. Whatever. But
Yeah.
I think I like the explaining of both sides and the talking about issues, not just the look at all those stupid people doing this thing.
Right.
And that's what you hear and that's what you absorb.
Because
right?
that's what's happening is that many, and again, I'm going to use the Duggars as an example. They raise their children from birth with this, you do not question authority. It goes God, parents, children, and you do not step outside that umbrella because you do, you're letting Satan in. And
you're not raising a generation of thinkers.
Right. And they're not getting educated in any other way. Like I was raised Catholic my whole entire life. I was raised Catholic, but I will also say I sat at a dinner table. I mean, this was more true, when I was much younger, where there was competing viewpoints debated at the dinner table.
Yeah.
That so much so that when I was I think I was in seventh or eighth grade, at a Catholic school, got in trouble because I wrote an article for the school newspaper that said, we don't really get a sex education at this school. And they were very upset.
You were right.
And I was right. And I remember I had a principal at the time look at me and said, are you even Catholic? And I was so offended. I'll never forget sitting there and being like, I grew up in this school. Like, one, how the hell don't you know? And two, she was kind of new. But two, yes. But you still needed to teach kids sex ed, right? And it was just this whole, I don't know.
If you don't
I was
swallow
raised
the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. That's
right.
it.
But I was also raised to push back a bit, right? So that's what needs to happen.
I wanted to share this article with you. I don't know if you saw. I posted this Did you read the article? Because it's wild.
It's
Called The
crazy.
Revolt of the Christian Homeschoolers. And it's about exactly what you're talking about, how they're raised in this way where they don't go to public school so that all of the ideas can be controlled and pushed into them. They're not allowed to question any rebellion at all. Any slightest hint of anything results in a corporal punishment. They will your parents beat the crap out of you, because if you hit children, this is their thinking. If you beat them earlier, then they're less likely to revolt later on.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so then you grow up and then you're supposed to do that to your children. Well, now, apparently, people are rethinking what they're doing to their children, and they're saying, I don't want to hit my kids. This didn't feel right to me, and I don't want to do this. And so if that part of it's wrong, then maybe other parts of it are wrong. And they're rethinking their entire religion and all the things they were taught, realizing they don't know half of the stuff that kids that went to public school know. They're re-educating themselves. It's wild. This is a great article out of SF Gate.
And on that note, because you were talking about spanking, and we're going to, well, we could start talking about the Duggars, because that's going to be the second part of the show. Shiny Happy People. I'm going to show you this clip. Hold on. Let's take down your picture real quick. Thank you. So this again, so the IPBL, right? Make sure I'm saying it right, because I don't want to be wrong about all of this. So the IBLP, sorry, it's the Institute in Basic Life Principles. That's what it's called. It was started by Bill Gothard, but it's all of these teachings about keeping your children compliant. This is a scene from the show, and it's been recorded on Twitter, so just listen carefully. And this is about spanking.
If I had someone who would loan me a little boy, I would show you how to spank a boy and bless him at the same time right now. And you got one coming?
The boy offered up to be spanked. Watch this.
I said, what's your name? Jason. Wow, that's a fine name. Well, Jason, I'm going to pretend that I'm your dad for a moment, okay?
Watch this.
I want to tell you, Jason, that Dad is not pleased with the way you've acted today. And you know it's wrong, right? And so I'm going to spank you. So lean over here right now. Jason, you're a fine boy. You're going to grow up to be an outstanding man. God's hand is on your life, son. Yeah, okay, let's see. You understand? Did you understand now? Okay, we'll give Daddy a hug.
So it's more and more, it's more of that. And I'm sorry if the sound wasn't really clear. But yeah, so they offer this kid up, Jason, poor kid. And he's just spanked and spanked and spanked. And believe me, the spanking that's actually happening inside the household is not this tap, tap, tap. They were telling stories, again, Shiny Happy People, the Duggar story, whatever, on Amazon Prime. They were talking about how sometimes people would be beat, and I'm talking kids, toddlers, for hours until they stopped crying. They would break these children like they were horses. You know what I mean? Like animals, breaking them of any sort of spirit, any sort of desire to, not behave, not listen. That's the problem with people like this.
I'm horrified. I'm horrified by that.
That is not even the most horrific thing, though. I mean, again, and it's not surprising. And I don't mean to constantly target the Catholic Church, but I think that the sexual abuse of priests is an example of what happens when you suppress sexuality. I do not believe, and I'm Catholic, but I do not believe that people should be celibate. I really don't. I think it goes against human nature. Now, priests can be, and nuns can, if it's okay with you and you don't become, a pervert, basically. Okay. But I think that this is the problem. You don't deal with your sexuality. You make it a sin. You make it this dirty thing. And then it breeds these molesters. It's not one and the same. I'm not saying if you are celibate, you are going to be a molester. No. But what I'm saying is there is a sexual problem, let's just say within priests. And you have to wonder, well, maybe we should rethink this whole idea. But it's also this fascination with modesty, right? Being in line, like women control. You want to be horrified. There was a line where they were talking about why men, like within the Duggar clan, these fundamentalist ideas, why men don't change diapers is because, God forbid, they become aroused because of their infant child's private parts. That is why men do not change diapers.
Are you kidding me?
No, that is why. And they say it with a straight freaking face. That is creating something. Like if you're teaching children, the reason why Sally has to change all the diapers and Johnny doesn't is because Johnny, if you look at baby Melissa's genitals, you're going to get aroused.
It's because daddy's a closet perv and he can't control himself. That's what you think of all men? Really?
And but it's also implanting something in these children's minds. Like, oh my God, it becomes this filthy, dirty type thing, this taboo thing, this thing that actually might create an arousal in you, an arousal that may not have been there if you were able to express your sexuality in any other way. But because you suppress sexuality, because you, I mean, there's so, again, you guys,
there's so much wrong with that. There's so much wrong with that.
They won't allow girls to use tampons because they will get pleasure from it. If I haven't heard some back ass word thing ever before, it's that. They will take young girls' boxes of tampons and say, you can't do that. And you need to repent because you've taken your own virginity. Wacky.
Wow.
All right. So we're going to do a couple of headlines. We're going to get into this. And you know what? We're also going to tie into this because it's another big story that broke over the weekend, which is another way in which religion infiltrates things. Dave Ramsey. Now, I led the opening of the show talking about how I did follow Dave Ramsey. I don't follow him anymore because I'm out of debt, but I did follow his financial teachings. I did the whole debt snowball. Anybody listen to Dave Ramsey or watch his show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I will not say that it didn't help me. I completely got out of debt, 100% because of it. But Dave Ramsey, huge into religion, and people trusted him. And now he is being sued for promoting this timeshare company and how religion, again, is used to manipulate people and get them to trust you. There's nothing wrong in believing in God, in whatever God or spirit or higher power you want to. But you also have to understand that people will use that against you to take your money and to control you. All right, so we're going to get into that in the second part of the show. But first, let's do some headlines. Please, you guys, click the thumbs up button if you support the show. If you like the show, please do that. Also, our super chat is live. If you want to donate a super comment, a super thanks, stickers are also available. So just look for the $sign in the comment box. And again, please consider becoming a Medorable, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com is where our Patreon link is. You could donate any amount every single month, whatever you can afford. If you could bump it up, that'd be awesome as well. So that's all right there at TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. And here's Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Let's start with Mr. Trump one more time. How about that? A former Watergate prosecutor says she believes the government is building a strong case against former President Trump over his handling of classified documents. That's Jill Wine-Banks there on the left. She told MSNBC she believes Trump is toast as special counsel Jack Smith nears the end of his investigation. Her comments come amid reports the federal grand jury in the case is expected to meet this week. The nation is expanding care for veterans exposed to toxic substances. Here's something good. U.S. Congressman Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey says lawmakers secured a $20 billion investment for the PACT Act. It would expand services to 3.5 million veterans exposed to burn pits, along with improving research and treatment for veterans. The money will also be used to speed up the VA claims process, something we probably should have been doing all along. New York Congressman George Santos facing a court deadline today related to 3 people who helped pay his bond after being federally indicted for fraud. Oh, George. Judge Ann Shields ordered Santos to respond to motions filed by the media that have asked for the unsealing of records that show the identities of the people. Santos is facing a dozen federal criminal counts in the case. And now, again, the media wants to know who got you out of jail? Who forked over the money? George? Apple making a splash with its latest iPhone update and new products as well. This is going on. A tech giant announcing its iOS 17 phone software update at the Worldwide Developers Conference event today. The new features like full screen posters for contacts, live transcriptions of voicemails, and video voicemails using FaceTime will be included in the update. That's what we're missing, Nikki. Video voicemails. You could just leave me a little message with your face, like a Nikki Medoro short, but right on my phone and only just for me.
So it's like a FaceTime voicemail.
Yeah. Instead of a voicemail, it's a video mail.
Why?
Because I want to see you, not just hear you.
But you know what? I mean, I'm sure many people are leaving voice messages in a state in which they probably don't want people to be looking at them. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you're walking around after a shower, you're sitting on the toilet, you're doing whatever. I don't know, but I don't need any more videos in my life. That's fine. Thank you.
So that's how you leave messages when you're sitting on the pot?
No, just always imagine me naked, Kim. I'm just always naked. There you go.
Well, okay. Will do. Let's get to California. Nikki mentioned this one earlier. Dozens of, California welcoming 16 migrants. They were flown to Sacramento over the weekend. This message from Attorney General Rob Bonta says they need respect, compassion, and care after a harrowing experience. He and Governor Gavin Newsom met with the group Saturday, claiming Florida arranged to have them travel from Texas to New Mexico and then the state capital, where they were dropped off outside of a church. The Attorney General looking into who paid for the trip, pardon me, and if any laws were violated, including maybe kidnapping, as Nikki had mentioned. Pardon me. Dozens of farm workers across California are getting help to become homeowners. Governor Gavin Newsom describing them as the state's economic backbone, saying they have our backs and now it's time that we have theirs. 5 programs will get a share of up to $16 million, one in San Mateo County to buy homes for survivors of a farm shooting in January. Fresno County and Santa Maria also included. And there's also a new effort underway here in California to try and prevent workplace violence. A bill just passed the state Senate that would ban companies from forcing employees to confront shoplifters. The lawmaker pushing it says retail violence is spiking. He points to 2 recent cases: a worker shot and killed at a Home Depot in Pleasanton, and a Walgreens security guard killing a suspect in San Francisco. The bill would also require active shooter training.
I was reading an article about this, Kim, and the thing that stuck out to me is State Senator Dave Cortese was saying, I don't know about this. Now, and he was using the reporter as an example. It's like, what if you're just a reporter and now all of a sudden they want to deputize you and say, okay, well, if something happens, tag you're it and you subdue that person. Now, on one hand, I feel like those that innately are kind of those savior people, right? Heroes will just jump in. Other people might be frozen. That's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody reacts their own way, but I wouldn't want the onus to be on me. I don't want it in case anything happens. I better be in my right mind to be able to protect everybody. I don't think that's fair. I didn't sign up to be security guard if I'm a reporter or if I'm a video store worker or I'm a teacher. Like, I don't.
Is that what it means though? Because what if it's, remember when we used to have to badge in at work?
Right.
And what if it's somebody behind you grabbing the door and you just turn around and say, hey, do you work here? I've not seen you before. What
right.
If
and I've done that before.
I have too. What if it's those little things that try to keep the workplace safe? Not if somebody has a gun and you get in the way of it all, that type of thing.
Okay. So maybe I'm reading this wrong. I thought it was you had to do it. So it's just you can ask if rank and file people want to do this, because I thought it was more of a forced type of thing.
I don't know. We need to look at the bill because that's kind of it's all it says here. What I'm looking at, the article I'm reading, is that it would ban companies from forcing employees to confront shoplifters.
Okay. Well, see, and I'm okay with that. it has to be up on the person, right? Unless you're a cop.
Yeah.
I will say this, unless you are a cop, or even I'll even say, I mean, unless we want to just change the job description of a security guard, if that
Right.
person is armed with a weapon,
Well, if it's your job to confront shoplifters, but
right?
don't you think most stores that I've heard of, they dissuade you from
Right.
confronting shoplifters? That's why people roll out of Target with baskets full of crap.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want it to be on me, but I guess we'll see. We'll look into the bill a little bit more.
Lastly, hundreds of looted archaeological treasures have been seized from a notorious British antiquities dealer and returned to Italy. I love this. It's like a movie. The country's art police. There are art police. They said they found 750 artifacts looted by Robin Sims and returned them after a fight that went on for decades. Italy's cultural ministry says the artifacts are worth close to $13 million. They'll go on display at the Castle San Angelo Museum in Rome as part of a collection of stolen art. This show is crowdfunded. That means we rely on you to fund it, so you can check out the Patreon and the PayPal links and a lot more at theNikkiMedoroShow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the second half of the show. And I feel like this show has been an advertisement for the Amazon Prime show, Shiny Happy People. But I don't care. You need to watch this, people. It's 4 episodes. I think they're each like an hour long. I started watching it on Saturday. I had to finish it this morning. It is insane. And it explains so much. And when I say it explains so much, I mean, why all of a sudden, and maybe it's not all of a sudden, we just haven't been paying attention. And I think actually now that I say it out loud, that's probably it. But these religious groups seem to really be having this control. Remember when former President Trump, for instance, and most recent, had the huge evangelical group support. And you're like, why would they support Donald Trump? He is like the farthest thing from what they claim their belief system is. And then you realize that this is the plan. They can control him. You think that Trump's controlling them, but no. They're controlling him. And they're not the only ones. So there are a number of politicians, past and present, that are part of the Institute in Basic Life Principles or connected to them. One of them, Mike Huckabee. I mean, he's extremely close. Mike Huckabee, he was a presidential candidate. I don't think he's running again, though.
I wonder if he raised Sarah Huckabee that way.
Absolutely, he did. He is extremely close with both Jim Bob and Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar is the one that got arrested for child porn. Mike Huckabee actually berated somebody, and there's video on this documentary, berated somebody for calling out Josh Duggar. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Of course, Huckabee ran in 2008. He believes marriage is between one man and one woman. He opposes same-sex marriage. Another politician linked to IBLP is former Texas Governor Rick Perry. He actually spoke at a conference for them. He ran for president in 2016 and a third time. He's planning on running next year. So he's been tied. Sarah Palin has been tied. Sonny Perdue, the former governor of Georgia, has been a longtime disciple, apparently, of the IBLP. And David Green, and then the most famous one, who, again, had to fall from grace. Do you remember Madison Cawthorn?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Madison Cawthorn? He was in the wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
And again, huge supporter of IBLP. What some would consider part of that Joshua generation, which is a group of largely homeschooled teenagers that campaign for Republican candidates. The Joshua generation, they do internships for politicians. They lobby. They go to Washington, D.C. They are trained in political campaigning. They are trained to infiltrate our politics, our military, our police. That's what's happening. So if you wonder where all of this is coming from, it's been set in motion for generations. So the Joshua generation, or Generation Joshua, it was founded in 2003. It's
Oh, you froze for a second. I don't know what happened to you. I hope you're coming back. Maybe it's me that froze. Can you hear Nikki or can you hear me, you guys? I'm thinking you can hear me, but I don't know. Well, as Nikki returns, all I can say is that I can't believe we let these crazy people into our politics and our life. Because when you really look into it, it is shocking and completely eye-opening that these people are in the mainstream world. That you had uh, Sarah Huckabee Sanders standing as the media representative for the president of the United States. Given everything, when you start reading into this institute and basic life principles and what that exactly means and how these people were raised and what they think, it's a real eye opener. I'm telling you. Just read a little bit about this in this SF Gate article talking about people now eschewing homeschooling that were brought up this way. They didn't get a real education. They're kept stupid on purpose so they don't question anything. And if they do have any questions of anything, then they're beaten. This is what people do to their own children. It's a shocker. It's an absolute shocker. I hope Nikki's coming back. Oh no, this is Nikki. She says, my power just went out, waiting for it to come back on. Oh no. Oh no. Did this group grab Nikki's mic? Yeah. It's funny because I was just looking at their website, the Home Institute and Basic Life Principles. And the very first thing on the website is Beware of False Prophets Part 1. It's pretty wild. It's a bummer because I wanted to hear what she had to say about the Duggars are trying to silence me. Yeah, they probably are. I wanted to hear what she had to say about the whole Duggar situation because all I knew really was that one of the brothers had been accused of, when you say the brother, there's like a million of them, right? One of the brothers had been accused of molesting a sister or two or three. I guess it goes deeper than that. So I'm interested in this new show called Shiny Happy People. It's yeah, it's a new special. I believe she said 4 episodes. I didn't watch the show because it just seemed so sleazy and tacky to me at the time and I wasn't interested. I remember my mom was watching it because she was so, I think, in shock by what they had the kids do. The girls, they can't go on dates and they have to dress a certain way and they have to, you know, you can't, what was it? You can't hold hands before marriage, or you can't do all of these things. Pretty amazing. When you think about the society we live in and how they were trying to control. And now, if they're part of this thing, they're probably beating kids into submission that didn't agree with that. How can I meditate on scripture? My son, hear the instruction of thy father. Yeah, this is all from this website. Family connections. We're headed to Canada. Why does God let bad things happen? What should we do when trials come? It looks all very Christian, like very, like it's okay. Like it's good people type stuff. How to teach you to be good people. And then you start digging into it about, the roles that people play. Focus on relationships that matter the most. Um, each of us is a person, they say. There's a provider, there's 5 roles. There's a provider, there's a parent, there's a partner, there's a proclaimer. All the different roles that people have to play. I guess you stay in your role. If you try to, jump out of your lane, there's hell to pay. Velma saying it's a cult. Yeah, it is a cult, Velma. That's what it feels like. And it's so interesting how so many people have bad things to say about the Muslim religion and they're violent and they're out to get us. And, you might not have even read up on what it means to be Muslim. Not that I am one, not that I would advocate being one, but how much disdain there is for that religion, but how little we know about the Christian religion and different sects of it and things that are happening in this country. And if you read into this, you will be as shocked as you are about some things that happen in other religions. But because it's all under the guise of Christianity, it seems more acceptable and like, oh, well, if you disagree with that, you must not be a good Christian. It all leads back to me to this belief in God and versus spirituality and versus going to church. It seems to me, and I know that we have a lot of people who are Catholic or who subscribe to organized religion in the chat, but it seems to me that organized religion is the problem. It's not believing in God. It's not being spiritual. It's not thinking that somehow there's a higher power. It is, I'll finish the thought. It's simply organized religion. Because I can believe in God. I can believe that there's a greater power. I can feel somehow that, people that I love have died. I can, feel that hopefully their presence is somewhere in the world. I can pray even. I can believe the way I want to believe, but I don't have to go to church and swallow everything they're telling me and drop my $20 in the basket. I don't have to do that. Why would I do that? Because when you look at organized religion, like what Nikki was talking about and what this IBLP organization does, that is absolute. I mean, it's just a cause of trouble. End of my rant. Back to you, Nikki Medoro.
Okay. So, and you're absolutely right. I mean, and I apologize if I'm a little fuzzy. I think everything's rebooting. But when we talk about a cult, right, I think a lot of people say, well, religion in and of itself, man-made religion, is a cult. You have usually one person in power. I mean, if you look at the 10 commandments, the number one commandment is you don't have any other gods except this one God, right? And so, I think an argument can be made that a lot of things could fall under this umbrella of a cult. But when I use the word cult, I don't consider just mainstream religion a cult. I consider a cult something like the IBLP a cult for many reasons. One, the submission of women, the abuse of children. Yeah. And I want to bring in the money. Usually you see it with mega churches. You'll see it with the IBLP. I keep saying it wrong. Basic life principles, BLP. They make a ton of money. So Bill Gothard, who is the head of it, would act, and you'll learn this if you watch the documentary, like he's poor. He drives a really old, small car, and he'd be at all these different locations where they'd have it. But he was living high off the hog. Big house, planes, things like that. So it's all BS, right? They try to portray one thing. But did you know that the Duggar specifically were the biggest money-making machine for TLC? Okay? One of the daughters' weddings was the highest watch episode or show that they'd ever had. They were making tons of money. But who was getting that money? Jim Bob Duggar. And do you think that he passed it down to his children? No. The amount of child labor that was done under the guise of you should want to serve is ridiculous. None of the women made any money. They had their physical, their births, their labor monetized by TLC. And then when they asked TLC to get paid, we paid your family already. No, they paid Jim Bob. That's who they paid. So that's when I talk about cult, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And like boycott TLC. I mean, I don't watch a lot of TLC, I'll be honest. So it's not much of a boycott for me personally, because I wasn't really a supporter of their show. But yes, they are through the Duggars. And what you'll learn in this documentary is that the Duggars 19 and counting was one of the biggest ways that this cult was able to expand. And it's sad that like people would watch it. Oh my God, look, they have 19 children. Look how well behaved these children are. They're well behaved because they beat the crap out of them. Do you know? So if you see, it's another thing I learned, Kim. If they raise their fingers up like this for three fingers, you know what that means? Smile. So you would look around and maybe like, you see an unhappy kid and there's a camera over there. They'd be like, okay, children. And every child would be like, that's a cult. That's a cult. Right? It's one of those things. And yeah, and then the money again, Calvin brings it up. Tax-free status for churches. That really needs to end. And I don't care what religion you are. If you're able to make a ton of money, or at least have a threshold, once you make a certain amount of money, you can't hide it in any offshore accounts or do any of that crap.
Yeah.
You need to pay taxes on it. And why wouldn't you want to? Right? I know they'll be like, well, what if the tax money goes to war? What if I'm against war? I still have to friggin' pay. Right? So, no.
It shocks me, these women and the whole subservient thing, it really gets me angry.
God, yes. It's so annoying.
These women let these men take all the money that, that
all of it.
They control it. They tell them what they can buy and what they can't. They give them minuscule amounts for groceries and to feed the children and to do the basic things that are required in a household. And these women have to, live like this. They don't realize they're entitled to half, lady. What are you thinking? Why are you living your life in poverty when your husband's rolling around in all the dough?
All the dough and all the women and they're sexual predators, many of them. And that's the thing. And they depend, and I'm not trying to toot my female woman horn over here.
Oh,
but
the
reason I believe, and this is my full opinion, they want women to become subservient is because when you give a woman power, she's extremely powerful. She is persuasive. She leads in a different way. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm not saying all men are terrible, but there's a reason why certain men in certain belief systems want to hold women down. Because God forbid, pun intended, they recognize their own power. We are the women. We are the ones that have the children, that bear your children. We are the ones that have to do the work so you can go flit and do whatever the hell you're doing over there. That's why you depend on us, but you make us, and I'm using this as the subservient woman, you make subservient women feel like we need you. We need you. Who's doing all the friggin' work over here? Who's bearing your children? Who's digging the trenches? Who's keeping the laundry and all this crap, changing the diapers because you might get turned on by an infant's genitals? Give me a break. Give me a break. I love Clark. I love you, Clark.
I know. I love you too.
Having worked with Nikki and Kim and basically every single woman at KGO, I asked the question, what is a subservient woman? Unfortunately, when you watch this documentary again, and the reason I'm talking so much about it is the politics aspect of it. If it was just the Duggars and they were an anomaly, I'd be like, TLC is making money off a woman who doesn't know how to say no to her husband. But it's not. The reason also that they have so many children is they are creating an army. Literally. They want to create an army of people who think like them. That's why there's the Generation Joshua. That's why they have these things. Also, Jim and Bobby Holt, featured in the docuseries, testified against Duggar. Bobby now has a 10-year-old domestic violence protective order against her husband. The abuse is rampant in their world. It is tragic. And Natalie, you're so right. It is so tragic what's happening. And they're taught not to talk about it. It's scary.
You know what, Gordon? They go to special colleges.
Yeah, they learn their own special education.
They have their own special colleges. We saw it with Bob Jones University. There's a special college, a IBLP college or whatever mentioned in the article.
Absolutely.
So they go to college, where college is more of the same crap their parents tried to cram down their throat, right? Here's your role in life.
Creationism, evolution doesn't exist.
Go have your babies, listen to your husband, and don't rock the boat.
And then they have the audacity to stand up there and have politicians say that drag queens are indoctrinating their kids. You see, they always project what they're doing.
Laughable.
It's insane.
It's laughable.
It's crazy.
Talk about indoctrinating kids.
Thank you.
They honestly said, these are people that grew up in this church, in SF Gate, in this article. They say, The rules are that you're supposed to beat the children when they're young, like
Yes.
toddlers. I'm telling you, like,
Break
you
'em.
beat a 2-year-old,
Mhm.
you beat them when they're little so they don't ask questions and shake up the foundation later on.
Yep.
Because once they know that, you can get beat like that, then they respect you and they don't disrespect you when they're teenagers.
Mhm. They're scared of you.
How do you beat a little child and think
like
it's
their
right?
God. Yeah,
How do you think that's right? And it's regular beating. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything wrong.
No, it's
They just want you to be scared of them.
Yes, you have to be scared. You have to listen. You have to be happy. You have to be compliant. And what kind of the audacity of Jim Bob to think he had such control, which he did, except Josh blew it up because he's a child porn person, that you would have cameras following you around 24/7 and they wouldn't catch it. That's how controlled he had. And just his whole persona. One person in the documentary is like, oh, he's supposed to be like this big lug. He's silly with this, corny haircut. And I bet you behind closed doors, when the cameras actually got turned off, he was one of the most frightening people that these children probably ever knew.
Mm-mm.
Oh, and then the mom. This is the other thing. And I hate to bash because they're all victims, I feel like, but she's right there with Jim Bob. I am not.
Somebody did this to them. But at some point, you become a thinking person. At some point in their life, they've had to question. They've had to go, was what I'm doing right?
No, I don't think that they do, though. If you're not exposed to talking back, when would you do that?
But when you hear other people's opinions, when you see what other people are doing in the world, wouldn't you ever ask a question like, why do they do that? What would the answer to that be? Why are these people thinking
You're not supposed to question anything. Do you know that after Josh Duggar was arrested for child pornography, and then Bill Gothard, the head of the cult, he was accused, and I don't know if he was arrested, I forget right now off the top of my head, of molesting. And by the way, the head of the cult, Bill Gothard, never married, never had children, but molested and sexually abused tons of young ladies. But anyway, the charges against him, they used Matthew 18, and this is how they use religion against you again. Matthew 18 to convince people not to gossip, which means if you're being abused, you should not tell other people you're gossiping. That is against God. You go to the person privately. So yeah, I'm being abused by the head of this organization, and I'm just going to privately pull him aside and like, hey, I didn't like it when you were sexually abusing me.
That seems like it's going to work. And that, by the way, is the reason for the homeschooling. One of the reasons for the homeschooling, because they don't want you in a place where someone could notice the bruises. They don't want you in a place where a school counselor is going to go, are you okay? They don't want you in a place
they want
where
complete control.
You could talk to your teacher and say, I'm being molested at home, or they're beating the holy crap out of me every night after dinner. They don't want you to do that. So they keep it all in the house so that kids never have a chance to get free or get help.
Exactly. And, okay, I feel, maybe it's the Catholic in me. I feel guilty always bashing on religion, right? I do. I feel, because I do have faith. I do believe in God. Nugget, I'm trying to talk over here.
Again, it doesn't mean that you have to believe in organized
but I
religion.
don't. I feel, and I have felt this probably before I even went to high school. I could see how people were using the faith to manipulate people. And I'm not saying I'm like, but I saw it. I saw it when they came at me when I wanted to write an article about there not being a real sex education in the school. I saw, some of the judgment that was happening. And I thought to myself, why do so many people that claim to be part of a religion use words and act in a way that goes against it? Why do they have to manipulate it? If you just break down, especially my religion, and the love each other. That's it. Love somebody how you want to be loved. Treat people how you want to be treated. That's my simple religion, right? It's like, and let God sort it out. That's my thing. It's like, if you fully believe something is against God, let God sort it out. But you don't need to judge.
Will you still go to church?
I do go to church to make my dad happy occasionally. Again, raised Catholic. I know the prayers. I know the up, down, kneels till the cows come home. Although they changed some of the prayers on me, so now I don't sound like. But anyways, I I don't mind going to church. It's not like I won't step through, or anything like that. The reason, this is what I say, and it's half joke, half not. I know it. I know the stories. I say it all the time. I'm like, I went to church for 18 years, sometimes twice a week. I got it. And because I believe personally that the church is manipulating and being too involved in politics, I don't need that coming from the pulpit. I understand my religion the way that I choose to believe it. And I'm going to say it like that because so many other people take their religion and choose to manipulate it in a way that lets them be bigots and hate on people and do all these sorts of things. So I got my stories. I say my prayers every night and I'm good. And if my dad wants me to go once in a while to church, I always prove to him that I don't like light on fire the minute I walk through the doors. So I'm still good. So it's fine.
It always surprises me though. And maybe it's for parents, maybe it's just because of that tradition, how many people I know may have been Catholic who are and love Catholic people. I know so many that are the nicest, kindest, loveliest people.
I know tons of them.
And people that we worked with that are delightful. So it's nothing against people that are Catholic. I have just a problem with organized religion in general. But even my husband who is not a practicing Catholic, but was raised Catholic, will want to go to mass on Christmas Eve.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of the night. Midnight mass, he wants to go.
I was raised going to midnight mass. It was awesome.
And
it was
like,
beautiful. One of the most
want me
beautiful masses ever. Yeah. Well,
because it's tradition and because you like to, keep those traditions alive. So it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's the ritual part of it that's beautiful. It's like if, for instance, Kim, if someone wanted to bring you to their church or expose you to, let's say, Passover or something that you might not celebrate, and you can appreciate it, you can learn from it, and if you are part of the religion, the ritual can bring you comfort. It could be a tradition, like, hey, it's Christmas, you go to church. Even the joke always, if you go to church on Easter, on Christmas, the priest will stand up there like, it's so happy to see so many Catholics here today. Why does the joke get said every year? Because that's what happens, right? People, they're the holiday Catholic or whatever.
Right.
And I don't go every year. If my dad specifically asks me to, I go, we might. I never promise, I go, maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's just one of those things. I know my own faith. I don't need to beat my children, be subservient to my husband, participate in violating child labor laws for my God to love me. Now, people are free to live their lives like that as long as you're not abusing children or other people. You want to be subservient. I'm going to say it. If you're a woman out there and you want to be subservient to your husband, fine, but it stays in your house, in your relationship.
Yeah.
The minute you try to start indoctrinating other people to that back-ass word way of living, I have a problem with it. It's just, it's not right. It's absolutely not right. Oh, thank you, Pamela Kirby, for the $20 super sticker. You're the best.
That's nice.
Thank you. Gordon, my mother broke a brush when she whacked me on the butt. My mom never beat me. My mom, there was a wooden spoon that became the biggest joke in our house. She would go into the drawer and she'd pull it out. And she's like, don't make me use this. And there was definitely an age. I could still see myself standing next to my brother where we just burst out laughing. We're like, Mom, you're never going to use that spoon. And she was just like totally bummed that the threat no longer worked. But yeah, no, it's just, the CNEs, Eric, Christmas and Easter. That's the joke.
Did you raise your kids going to church?
My children are Catholic. Oh, they're baptized. My children are baptized. They also have they
Mine
their
are
first
not.
communion. Yeah. So it was
You
a
should
big
have heard
point
my
of contention.
mother-in-law. Woo.
Oh,
Yeah.
my children did not get baptized or have their first communion until they were much older. So the whole baby thing, that didn't happen because my husband's not Catholic and I don't go to church. And I don't believe that my children are going to hell. That's not part of my belief system. It is part of the Catholic religion though. And so it was very, very important for my parents. And because I wasn't torn about it, I was like, okay. And so they learn and we talk about God and all those sorts of things, but there's a balance, people. There is a balance. And again, it's just rich. It's really rich. The rules that are unbreakable for some Catholics, and other ones are like, whatever. We'll just change that. It's like, that's why I have a problem with it. It's like, if you're gonna switch anything and not pay attention to it, how about we not pay attention to the ones that make you into a bigot and hate people? How about that? Yeah. Right? I mean, we're okay with the whole eating meat and working on certain days and crossing the street when I'm on my period, all those weird, wacky Old Testament rules. But the ones in which you have to hate on other people, those ones are steadfast, can't ever change, huh? It's all BS. It's just religious or ridiculous. Okay, you have some headlines ready?
I do have some headlines.
And then when we come back, I'm gonna end with Dave Ramsey, because I want you guys to let me know, is there a difference between using your religion to help guide people out of a financial problem and then promoting something? Because that's Dave Ramsey's problem, is he's been caught in something. And some people are saying he's just a total fraudster. Do I have any people that have listened to Dave Ramsey in the past or still do? And can you separate the two? So, and
Is
then
he on KGO on weekends? I don't know where.
No, I think they wanted to. I don't know, Clark, if you're still here. I feel like Clark had posted something. I think they wanted him on KSFO. He's totally conservative. He would not be on KGO. I think they were thinking maybe, but no, they didn't never put him on there. I only listened to him on the podcast. I never listened to him on traditional radio. But yeah, I did listen to Dave Ramsey. I will totally admit it. But I'm able to separate the financial advice from the religion.
Right.
How about you guys? You guys let me know. Again, Kim's going to do some headlines. We'll talk Dave Ramsey. And then if we have time, we'll talk about, DNA tests for babies. It's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Oh, this is the Nikki Medoro Show, and I am Kim McAllister. So let's take a look at the news. We'll start with the situation in Washington, D.C. that happened over the weekend. The White House now offering condolences to the loved ones of those killed in a plane crash in Virginia. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby telling reporters 6 F-16s from 3 different air bases were launched to intercept a Cessna after it was seen flying erratically off course over the Washington, D.C. area. The jets caused a sonic boom heard by residents in the area. Eventually, that plane crashed, and it appears that no one aboard survived. The House Oversight Chairman is beginning to process to hold FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress. Dun, dun, dun. After reviewing a document claiming President Biden was involved in a criminal bribery scheme and being briefed by officials, Republican James Comer said the FBI refused to hand over the unclassified record to the House panel. The FBI originally offered to let Comer come look at the document at FBI headquarters, but after Comer said he would hold Wray in contempt of Congress, the Bureau offered to bring it to Capitol Hill to review it in a secure area. This looks like kind of a back and forth tit for tat situation. South Carolina Senator and 2024 presidential candidate Tim Scott says that comments made about him by the hosts of The View were pretty offensive. Scott appeared on the talk show Monday after hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, and Joy Behar all criticized Scott's presidential campaign announcement last month. The host claimed Scott doesn't get systemic racism, with Goldberg saying he's the exception, not the rule, when it comes to African Americans. And Spotify is laying off 200 people on its podcasting team. Oh no. The streaming service said in an internal update, it's part of a pivot to allow for its support to support creators in a better way. Spotify previously cut about 6% of its staff in January, saying it was just too ambitious in investing ahead of the revenue growth. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. All right. So click that thumbs up button really quickly for us. We love it. YouTube loves it. All those sorts of things. Okay. So how many of you ever watched or listened to Dave Ramsey? So if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he does this like financial podcast and the show. He's been doing it for years. I believe it's based out of Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. The reason why I say something like that is he gives a lot of financial advice about buying a home, being in debt. So how long ago was it? I was definitely still at Station X and I hadn't had my show yet. So I think I was still doing news with Brett. So this was many, many years ago. And I don't know how I ended up getting turned on to Dave Ramsey, but I did. And I started listening to his podcast. And he has something called the debt snowball. And if anybody doesn't know who Dave Ramsey is, so the debt snowball is you start with your smallest debt and then you make payments on that until it goes away. And whatever payments that you make on that, then you add to the next one. And then so it's supposed to build. And the reason you start with your smallest debt is because you'll get rid of it first. And it really helps you. You're also supposed to have like a $1,000 emergency fund because things happen while you're doing your debt snowball, those sorts of things. There's like all these steps until you kind of are debt free and investing and maxing out your 401k. A lot of great, in my opinion, and I'm giving my opinion here about Dave Ramsey. I like the debt snowball. It worked for me. A lot of great advice regarding paying for college. He has really, although I still had, back then, I still believed this way. He kind of reinforced my belief system about college, right? It's pay for college, pay for it in a way you can afford. You don't have to break the bank. If you're paying out the butt for a degree, you better be like a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. If not, basically, he'd call you an idiot. He was kind of blunt with his tactics. But one of the other things that he really promoted in getting out of debt was something called timeshare exit team. Because one of the things that a lot of people had debt in was timeshares. I don't have a timeshare. My parents have a timeshare, and I feel like I'm going to be getting this timeshare. I don't know how I get out of it, but it's not mine. I'm not making any payments on it. My parents have one, and they use the crap out of it. It's like through Weston. They love it. So there's no regret on my parents' side. But Dave Ramsey promoted something called timeshare exit team, which promised to get you out of your timeshare. Because if you're paying all these maintenance fees and you're not using it and you're trying to get out of debt, this was one of the ways that you could do it. Well, he's getting sued by 17 people. 17 of the podcast and radio host listeners have filed a $150 million lawsuit against him, alleging Dave Ramsey played a role in defrauding them of millions of dollars when he promoted timeshare exits company. He was allegedly paid as much as $30 million from 2015 to 2021 to endorse timeshare exit team.
Wow.
Which collected $200 million from clients, many his listeners. Reed Hine and Associates is the owner or whatever, the company that owns timeshare exit team. Received $70 million in fees from Ramsey's customers. Reed Hine and Associates went out of business after settling with Washington State for more than $2.6 million in a lawsuit. So some of the stories that we're hearing about people that signed up are insane, especially given the fact that Ramsey himself would tell people, don't spend money on things that are scams. So some people said they would charge you. So here's one. Allegedly advised a couple that their $41,000 contract with them would make it harder to get out of the timeshare contract with Diamond Resorts. After advising the couple to not tell the timeshare company of their efforts to get out of the timeshare exit team allegedly suggested the couple stop making payments. So then that put them in collections. Then timeshare exit team stopped returning the calls. And now it's devastated their credit, which, if you're also a Ramsey fan, Dave Ramsey tells you don't care about your credit score because you shouldn't have credit anyway. So a credit score of 0 is a good thing because you shouldn't be using credit cards anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that whole thing. Now, I'm not that kind of Ramsey follower. I do have a credit card. I have one credit card. It's my travel credit card. And I pay it off every single month if there's anything on it. But yeah, so I love Eric says timeshare exit groups are as big of a scam as timeshares are. And he's saying that I need to refuse to accept the timeshare if it's willed to you. Well, it doesn't have to be willed first because my parents are still alive, thank God. So it's not a problem yet. But yeah, I don't want it. I don't think I want. It's also between me and my brother. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. So, but here's the thing that blows my mind. The lawsuit says Dave Ramsey never returned any of the tens of millions of dollars Reed Hine and Happy Hour Media Group paid him from his own listeners' hard-earned money. You would think that if he realized, not like he can't afford it either, that if he realized that he played a role in scamming these people out of their hard-earned money, that he'd return at least some of it.
No.
But no. So, and so people were paying tens of thousands of dollars to timeshare exit team on the advice of Dave Ramsey. And it was a total scam. So I don't know what it's going to do to him. I know that he's kind of, I don't listen to his show anymore just because kind of like church. Been there, done that. I got it. I understand the whole rules and whatever. Sometimes it's entertaining to listen to people's stories, but he has a lot of fill-in hosts who, while they're okay, it's not the same thing. But now with this in the back of my mind, I remember during COVID, he was really pissed off about the whole work from home thing. I remember I was getting my steps in at the beginning of COVID, and I listened to him because I hadn't listened to him for a while. He was not happy about it. So yeah, and again, he uses religion and God, tithing. You could be in the most debt of ever, but continue to tithe, which means give up a portion of your paycheck, which I'm not knocking. If you want to do it and that's the way you worship your God, okay. But I'm just saying he used religion in this way so people would listen to him. He partners with churches and his financial courses are taught at church to people. So again, it's using religion to manipulate people to think the way and use the thing that you do. And in this case, again, not surprising, but surprising to some, it's criminal. It's totally criminal. So, I mean, I'm not going to be judge, jury, and executioner here. He's being sued. I don't know if he's going to settle. Again, he is rich. The guy is rich.
Well, it's interesting to me that, that was kind of a squeal. It's interesting to me that he was somebody that you listened to, somebody that you trusted for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out the guy's a total scammer, con artist, grifter. So that's really hard because I would like to think that you and I could tell a radio personality, like we can see through to the
Well, you know what? You want to know the truth? The truth
hard.
is I would never, and again, maybe it's because of our background, but what I took from Dave Ramsey was advice. I never took his endorsements. Do you understand the difference? So it's like, he's like, well, one, I didn't have a timeshare, so I never got, and then he would also promote these financial advisors, which I am more of I want to know somebody that's going to deal with my finances. I'm not going to call up a rando on the phone.
Yeah.
That Dave Ramsey is promoting and think that he's done his due diligence.
Right.
So yeah, no, I mean, I definitely feel like I have, a BS detector going most of the time.
Yeah.
But his advice worked for me. And I know that some people are like, oh, the debt snowball doesn't work. Look, I was in a buttload of debt, a lot of debt. And I'm not trying to do a commercial for Dave Ramsey. I'm doing a commercial for getting your finances in order. There is a freedom involved, and Dave Ramsey will say this, of not having bills all the time. Like my house, and I've said this before, my house needs so many things. I want to get a piece of furniture. I need a new couch. I want a piece of furniture to hold all my blankets. That's not a laundry basket because everything I look at, it looks like a laundry basket. I want all these things. You know why I don't buy them? Is because I got a buttload of things coming up that I'm paying cash for. I could live without a new couch. I've been sleeping on it, right? I mean, I had been laying on it for months, more than a year. It's fine. I don't like it. It's not that comfortable. It has like cat scratches in it and stuff like that. It's not the best couch. I wish I could get a different one. I want all these things, but unless I could pay cash for it,
you're not doing it.
I don't buy it because again, nobody gives two craps. I don't need would it be nice for someone to come into my house and my house is totally decorated the way I want it to, and I have all the artwork that I want to buy, and I have this piece of furniture that looks nice. Yeah, it'd be great, but who gives a shit? Sorry, say shit twice, 3 times now. But I don't care. And that's a freedom. And I know that a lot of people don't have that. And so if my piece of advice that I took from Dave Ramsey is like, don't keep up with the Joneses because they actually don't care about you.
So I thought you were supposed to not start with the smallest debt, but start with the debt that had the highest interest rate.
Well, that's not a Ramsey thing. That's not
a Ramsey attack.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can, right? But if your largest debt also has the highest APR, then you're, like you're kind of spinning your wheels. It's a psychological thing is why they start with the smallest one, because you feel like you're working down. They actually make you write it out. I actually did it. I wrote out every single debt that I had, bill, like a credit card bill. I mean, I'm not kidding. I probably, from small to large, probably had 10 different bills on top of all my monthly ones. And I slowly made it through, and you just apply it and apply it and apply it. And it worked. Did it take like a year? Yeah, it took like a year. But I got it done, and I've never gone back. My husband, it bothers my husband sometimes. I'm like, yeah, we don't have money for that. It becomes a joke. Like he'll just like throw out some insane number for some ridiculous item. And I always go, nope, we don't buy that. So
we don't,
and it's free. Like honestly, sometimes I forget that I have a water bill. Like it's actually kind of dangerous because I'll be like, oh shoot, my water bill's due, because I don't have bills coming in the mail all the time.
Yeah.
I don't have bills, and I know, and it's not a point of privilege. I worked to get here, and so you can too. But I'm just saying, be careful who you listen to, including myself. It has to work for you. Hello, dog.
I got a dog. I got a kid. I got everything going on up in here.
Well, hello, children. Well, we're ending the show anyway, but I just want to let you guys know the timeshare thing is total BS, and people should stop tying their religion to financial matters like that.
Yeah.
Believe God, worship whatever way you want to, but you don't need to use people's religion to manipulate them into the way that you believe. Dave Ramsey, shame on you. Shame.
For shame. I've heard you, though, I have to say, I've heard you decline to a sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't believe in it.
Well, there's one that I've really done. And we know that might, and I did. And I've always said I did my pillow at the very, very beginning before we even knew who Mike Lindell was. And then all of a sudden they gave me a pillow, and honestly, not trying to knock it. I thought it was a terrible pillow. Yeah. So didn't want to sponsor him anymore. But no, I mean, you have to be, or you're just a whore for everything, right? It's like, just tell anything.
No matter how much we need money for the show, if something we didn't believe in came along, we would say no, thank you.
Exactly. No, thank you. No, thank you. But I will say thank you to people who donate to our show, like Pamela, who gave us a $20 super sticker.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. So again, the super chat is live, even if you watch it on replay. You could throw us some dollars for a super chat or a super comment. It is one of the ways we financially support the show. And the major way we do it, it is not a scam. You could be a Medorable. You get this show when you turn on YouTube, is to go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com, and there you'll find links to our Patreon to become a Medorable, as well as our PayPal link, merch, and all that kind of stuff is there. So I appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow. Everybody have a fabulous day. Watch Shiny Happy People, Kim. It's going to blow your mind.
Now.
I know, right? All right. Bye, guys.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.